Hello and welcome to my channel. Darren's Villaging and More presents Lemax Toy Soldiers Reimagined. These were introduced in 2007 and retired in 2011. They are approximately 2 inches tall by 1 inch wide. Come join me as I reimagine these for my Christmas village. Here we have a set of the Lemax lighted toy soldiers. I have seen these around for years but never use them in my display as I avoid hyperwhite LEDs most of the time. Looking around the figure, I see glue only on the base and nowhere else. I'll use my hairdryer on high heat to get this. Now, I did not realize this before, but there are actually 2 LEDs on the inside. Maybe that explains why it's so bright outside of the color temperature being used. Using a pillar candle holder and a hooked pick tool, I'll hold the figure in place and apply high heat to the point where this figure will be warm to the touch. On the candle pillar holder, I'll rotate the figure around a little bit just to ensure all sides are evenly heated. Now that the figure's had some time to warm up and is very warm to the touch, I'm going to try to pry this base off. And as you can see, it's not moving. So using my hooked pick tool and working into the channel for the wires, I can see it moves a little but not a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and apply more heat. I am concerned at this point that in conjunction with hot glue, there's potentially epoxy in here as well, which is part of the reason why this isn't coming apart easily. I'll give this a few minutes on high heat and then try again. At this point, the toy soldier is quite warm, so I'm going to go ahead and try to pry off the base using a screwdriver. Now, this is a small flathead screwdriver that I'm using, and with that, I am able to free the soldier from the base. I'll work the screwdriver around the base of the figure just to make sure I don't break anything. Okay, so now that the LEDs are out, we can see that these are definitely hyper white LEDs. And we have our base where it is keyed, so we can only sit one way. Looking at the wiring for the LEDs, the first bit of wiring for the soldier furthest away from the battery pack came off without issue. The second soldier, however, the wiring is glued and or epoxy to the base. Expect to cut the wires here and then use a Dremel tool to clean out the channel. I did use a burr bit to remove the remaining wires in the channel. I'll go ahead and remove the battery box off camera, and now let's take a moment to discuss the replacement LEDs chosen for this project. For this project today, I'll be using a 3mm warm white LED. This is a 3 to 3.2 volt, 0.25 watt at 20 milliamps. Let's calculate for resistance using a 3 volt power source and a 3 volt LED. That leaves me 0 volts. I'll be using a 0.25 watt, 10 ohm plus or minus 5% resistor for this project. Let's get started with replacing the LEDs. Since the wiring's in great shape, it'll be reused. Prior to this step, I have already removed the battery box and recycled its power adapter. I wire in parallel, meaning each LED will get its own resistor. The first step is to check for polarity and then place a small amount of heat shrink on the wires to later be used to cover our solder points. When placing the heat shrink down the wires, make sure there are no extra stray strands of wire that get pulled back, as this can create a short later. You will see that the LED leads are now bent at a 90-degree angle. This is to allow it to sit in the channel of the base of the soldier. In order to get the proper angle, I made the bend in the LEDs prior to attaching the resistor. With the resistor attached to the LED and heat shrink applied, I'll be soldering these connections live, as there is no risk of electrocution. It's not the volts that will hurt you when working with electricity, it's the amperage. And today we are working with a mere 40 milliamps. With each solder connection, I'll be using flux and light duty solder, and then trim any excess leads off of the LED or resistor. I'll then slide the heat shrink up to the connection point and heat with a lighter. For this particular project, I've chosen to use only one LED per soldier, as the original 2 hyper white LEDs, in my opinion, was just a little too much. I want these to have a nice, soft ambient glow. With our solder connections complete, the next step is to place the LED into the base to ensure fitment. And it fits perfectly. So now I can use a small dab of low temp hot glue to secure the LED to the base. But first I'm going to check to make sure that each of the soldiers can still fit in the base and there's no excess epoxy or glue that I need to remove prior to putting the LEDs in. I do want the soldiers to sit flush with their bases. This will be a very small dab of low temp hot glue, and simply placing the LED and holding it in its position for about 3 seconds to allow the glue to set. Now I can take my low temp hot glue and run a small bead of glue on the base, and then simply slide the soldier over the LED and onto the base. Press firmly and allow to dry. Now we can move on to our final reveal. Let's take a quick look at the before, and now let's take a look at the after. I am quite happy with how these have turned out. I do not like hyper white in a village, and this nice soft warmer light actually brings out a lot more character and color within the figures themselves. So tell me, what did you think about this project? What would you have done differently? And you know, we might be revisiting these again to fix that paint. If you like this video, like and subscribe for more. Happy holidays, and thank you for watching. If you like this video, like and subscribe for more.